So you got to speak to your soul. Speak life. Speak life. You believe. That's what you believe. So today we're going to talk about media. Media. You believe you're going to get media. You're going to get press. So who am I? Dr. Pam Perry. And I am here with the Speak Life event. And I'm so godly proud of Dr. Letitia Nicole. So happy to be a part of this event. And I want to impart some wisdom about media. I met Dr. Letitia Nicole probably about almost 10 years ago. And we were at an event of another young lady, LaShonda Henry, in North Carolina. And I traveled all the way there. And Letitia Nicole, surprisingly at that time, was sort of quiet, but she had a lot of potential. And I saw the it in her back then. And over the years, we've come to know each other more and more. She's been in different circles and we've been in each other's circles. And what I found is that her message just got more and more bolder. And she came out with the books and all of the things, the tea, Letitia Nicole, the lashes, and just the magazine, the events. And it's always been true to who she was. But today we're going to talk about how to amplify that. We call it the Pam way, promoting, amplify, and marketing. She had all of this in her heart. God had dropped it in her. She's a transformational evangelist. That's why she's doing the Speak Life event. And I want to impart some of the things that I shared with Dr. Letitia Nicole in terms of how to get out there and get known. She's an influencer on Facebook and Instagram, but she also has some media coverage as well. She's been on podcasts, she has her YouTube channel, and all of this was not by accident. It was very strategic. She was part of my branding accelerator program, part of the Speak Sell Shine program. And one of the things about Dr. Letitia Nicole Beatty is that, she is very, very adept about learning, about creating, about really applying what she knows, about sharing what she knows and what she learns, and really speaking life over everyone she comes in contact with. I'm really glad to have been a part of her journey of her going and doing all the things. One of the things that she's been on national platforms speaking, as well as national platforms in terms of print and broadcast. And she never, never stumbles. She is prepared. It took about 10 years to be overnight success, right? And so, with that, I'm going to go on and really share with you some of the nuggets that we're going to go over today in this presentation. And really, media is one of the main things that I'm talking about. Media is crucial for credibility and visibility. It's also really one of the main things that to really amplify and reach a market. Facebook is good. And they're not going to knock it because that's how some businesses are made, from Facebook. But if you want to reach people that may not be on Facebook or just go on Facebook to play around and not taking anything seriously, you want to reach a different platform, whether it's a newspaper, magazine, radio, television, or podcast. And then not relying on social media can be a thing, because I've heard horror stories about I've been locked out of Facebook, so that. So we're going to talk about the P.A.M method, the promote, amplify, and market. I always say share everything everywhere. And you can share it once and twice, but you do want to make sure that you are building an email list. Dr. Letitia Nicole knows that I always talk about that. That's what you own. And then we'll talk about some things that will make some success stories in social media, success stories in media, and also to some other things that will help you get more media coverage. One of the main things I want to just put up here really quick, so that if there is a free gift I want to give everyone, and it's at PamPerryPR.com. Put that right there, PamPerryPR.com. You can go there and actually get the 7 ways, the 7 things that the media wants when you want to get on television. Now, do you need all 7? You just have a better chance. You can have 2, you can have 3, but if you have all 7, it's pretty much going to be banking. So let's go over a little bit about uh, media relations and media coverage and why it's important. So one of the things they said that PR is like the first step is getting noticed, right? You really have to get noticed, but the second step is not being forgotten once you leave the room. So you can get noticed, but you want people to remember you. And that's where media training and your messaging comes into play. But the purpose really of any media is to highlight and explain like who you are, why you do it. And then really always think about this. And this is what journalists think about all the time. Who cares? Who is going to really care? What are their viewers going to care about? What are their listeners going to care about? What are their readers? I have a book here. It's a journalist journey book, and one of their jobs, their main job, is to get stories right. So their story is they're news junkies, right? They're always looking at what's trending, and they have to pitch stories. They have to pitch stories with a story idea. What are the elements? And then the key thing, when my journalist friends tell me, they sit around the table and they really discuss like who cares about this story. So I know so many people want to use and leverage the power of the media as a tool for marketing, as a tool for sales, as a tool to build up their brand. But the media really's job is to make sure that they are delivering valuable information to their audience. And that's where you want to position yourself more as not just a person out here trying to sell something, but as a subject matter expert. Because the media is looking for all the time experts that can add to their pitches, their story ideas that their audience would care about. So, one of the things media coverage is really like getting a spotlight on a stage. And without it, you're just a person talking in the dark. So you can have a great message on the stage, but if you don't have a spotlight, no one's going to see you. So, one of the things, too, you want to make sure that the difference in explaining traditional media and social media. Obviously, I am a dinosaur because I was here before social media. And when I studied journalism in school, one of the things that we really talked about was either print and broadcast. Print and broadcast. There was no such thing as digital. Digital is now very viable. Obviously, digital and social media are very viable, but the credibility still, even in SEO terms, social, search engine optimization terms, have to do with credibility from the news outlet, because we can post what we want to post about ourselves all day. We can post great pictures, Photoshop pictures. We can post great videos, edited videos. We can post on our website, write copy, all on our own, right? Because we can. We can own the media. We can do videos, we can do podcasts, but that doesn't have as much credibility as going through the media. Why? Because the media vets the stories. Is written through a third party endorsement. It's not what you say about yourself that really, really, truly matters to other people. It's what the third party endorsement says about you. So, what other people say about you, which is really the whole purpose of branding, too. About branding is what other people say about you. And of course, obviously, we speak life to ourselves, but when we post things on social media about ourselves all the time, and it's only us talking about ourselves, then people begin to wonder. So, you want to make sure that you're getting into your local newspaper. Maybe it's your Black local newspaper, or your dailies, or your business publications, or every market has a local radio station and a community affairs show. Knowing the media landscape is really job number one, of really knowing what every market involves. Obviously, there's television shows, there's the news shows, there's the feature shows on the news channels, but you want to know what are those shows and follow them on social media, because you want to pitch them. All of the media are all on social media. Most of them are on Twitter. We talk about that a lot. I'll get into that later. But media coverage really provides a level of trust, credibility that social media really cannot match. And even though it's very, very popular, when someone says, "Oh, I saw you on Good Morning America," or "I saw you on the news," it's a lot better than say, "Hey, I saw you on Facebook." Okay. So, a little bit about me in terms of my PR success that I've had over the years. I've had clients that have been on CNN, and I've had clients that were anchored from CNN as well, Andrea Hall. And I've also had who's gone on to be with the Lord, one of my first clients. And I've had clients that have been on TBN. I've had clients in different newspapers and GMA and the Oprah Winfrey Show back in the day. But one of the clients that I had that a lot of people know now, but wasn't like Erin Simone came out of the blue. She was on Speakers Magazine, the cover, I believe, 2019 September. And before that, she was actually a client where I was working with her, and she was making a transition from PR into doing what she's doing now. And her first launch into Fearless magazine, she had an event. She was doing all things Fearless, right? That was her brand. And recently, she was featured on CNN about the Fearless Fund. Again, none of this is new. It was all strategic. It was probably a 10 or 15-year in the making. So now when you see her on social media and things like that, know that she has been in this game for a long time. She's written books. A lot of the pitches and things that she has, a lot of the, because she was in PR, so she knew a lot of the media as well, which is what I'll go into a little bit more about. How do you meet the media? What do you say to the media? How do you get to know them? Where are they? What do I say? But her story was just not a one-stop interview. It really led to other opportunities as well. And she's very strategic about it. She does hold press conferences. She's very savvy about that. But again, you don't have to be Erin Simone in order to be on CNN. You can do that as well, but it just has to be, what is the story idea? What are the elements? And then always remember, who cares? And think like a journalist, think like a producer. Don't think like a person that wants to sell a book. So getting a major media, it's like, Oprah saying, you get on CNN, you get on CNN, you get a spotlight, you get a spotlight. So you want to make sure that you are really thinking like a reporter, thinking like an editor, thinking like a producer, and being strategic. Never think any media outlet is too small to start, because media begets media, begets media, begets media. When I was working with Erin Simone, she went on some YouTube podcasts, she went on some smaller newspaper articles and things like that. But now, she can be choosy about some of the things because you only have so much time. Speakers Magazine is a magazine that positioned her as a speaker. She was actually speaking at a church. She was spoke at CTAB, and I helped her get that speaking gig. And now she speaks all the time and gets too many requests. But it's not just a publication. It's kind of like a VIP pass to the world to just let them know, hey, I am positioned. One of the people that was on Speakers Magazine was Tari Donaldson, who has a book coming out as well. But this particular cover was actually on the New York Times billboard as well. She was part of the Speak Sell Shine event, and all of the people who were in Speak Sell Shine are in here as well. Letitia Nicole as well. But you want to make sure that you amplify. Here's Letitia Nicole right here. That you amplify your message. When I say amplify, so this is one. It's on the website. You share it. You put it on a billboard. We then share it out to another broadcast outlet, and they have you on their show. It's a way to really know that you're sharing everything everywhere, because this is just one element, but there's so many other elements that you can share this particular content besides actually mailing them in the mail. How about that? The JJ Conway, she was on the cover for this particular magazine, which is the June issue, and she is a retired lieutenant colonel of the Army, and she has an event, Juneteenth event every year, that talks about Black wealth. What I like, and she's a minister as well, just like Letitia Nicole, but she's from this is her second year doing this. She's gotten so many opportunities to speak in other places, and people recognize her. And that's the thing that I said at the beginning. You want people to notice you, but you also want people to remember you. So those are one of the main things, that Speakers Magazine is not just a publication, but it's a PR tool for you to use and leverage. So let's talk a little bit about media relations and social media and ads, because I know people run a lot of ads, and I'm not against ads. My major was in the journalism school. Within the journalism school, I majored in public relations and advertising. All of that has to do with marketing, promoting, amplifying marketing, the P.A.M method. That's what that is regarding. So I'm not saying one is better than the other. You do have to use them all, but use them strategically. So Facebook and Instagram are great for selfies, and things that go viral are just silly things. It could be dancing and TikToking and cat videos, but for serious credibility, you need media coverage. You need to be in your local newspaper. You need to be in online publications, The Root, The Griot, New York Weekly, uh, LA Wire, Women's Journal. Those are credible things, and they tell your story in long format. They tell your story in long format. I give you a little bit about the benefits of that. Is that in terms of ROI, you can run a lot of ads, and you do have to have a lot of money in order to reach the people, but you can run one story and actually send it out maybe to your email list. Say your email list is maybe 500. Those 500 will feel a lot more better about you in terms of your credibility, your trustworthiness, the fact that you're now a big deal. Your story is told in long format. And this even happened with Dr. Letitia Nicole. She said she had her story. She put it on Facebook. She put it on there a couple of times. And then finally people read it and says, I didn't know that about you. And so she's been featured in some of the magazines, online magazines, and the reporter wrote a long format about her story. And that's what the media, broadcast media, wants to share. Now, long format story, when I say maybe 1,000 words or so, but when you get on television, you probably have about 7 minutes. Podcast, you can have a half an hour or an hour. But the main thing is that you want a long format story that the media can pull and have a lot of teeth in. And they can then figure out what elements they want to use. Maybe when you're on that 7 minute segment, what they're going to use as B roll, background roll, what they're going to use maybe as voiceover. Those are the things that they're looking at. What are the elements that they need for that story? So you want to make sure that when you have your PR plan, that you do include what I call print or the long format story. It could be online magazine, or it can be online newspaper, or a newspaper. Most newspapers are online anyway, but what I'm saying, some are just dedicated online, like New York Weekly is online, and a journal as well. So running endless ads is like throwing spaghetti on the wall, hoping something sticks. You want to not be that wasteful. You want to build credibility. Longevity in media stories is going to have a longer shelf life and can be referenced, sharing long after the initial publication. Sharing something like this, sharing the story of JJ Conway is a lot longer. I can now have her on a show with Sharon Morton or Kelly Wright or any of the Vicky, um, Dr. Vicky Johnson, because now they can read her story, not just a Facebook post. Or just your website. I'll say this really quick. You say, well, all that's on my website. Journalists don't like to go to websites only when they're doing a research, but initially they want to hear from a colleague, a third party endorsement, what it is that someone is doing. Okay, they want to read your story from another outlet. That, and then they'll go to your website and find out what's going on with you in Google and on your website and that kind of thing. But when you send a pitch, an initial pitch, headline in the subject line could be something like, hey, here's a great story idea, and whatever it is. Hi, such and such, I see you cover, women in business. Here's a story that was recently written in A, B, and C, and you have the link. That is enough to pique their interest because they're always looking for stories. So now you send them a story, and then they're thinking like, how can this pertain to my audience, to my readers, or to my viewers? So let me give you some strategies for pitching. Effective pitching. This is what I do all day, every day. First thing you want to do, research and understand the media outlet in this audience. That should be a given, but let me tell you, it does not happen. Sometimes we're so impatient that we just figure that we can just get all these media contacts, and I have thousands, and I can give them all to you, but you will still have to do the research for every single outlet, for everyone to know who their audience is, and then know what that journalist actually covers. That takes work, but that is what it's going to entail. So, for instance, I just booked another client, Dexter B. Jenkins. Dr. Letitia and Dexter were in Branding Accelerator together. And Dexter is going to be on Money Making Conversations Masterclass. Why? Because Dexter talks about, he's a faith based financial mentor, and he talks about building wealth. Perfect thing. His audience, primarily African American. Dexter's African American. That's good. He basically talks about money, which is money making conversations with Rashawn, which is a on all the HBCU outlets, as well as a podcast. He's a former manager for Steve Harvey. And obviously, he and Steve still talk. So Dexter's going to nail it. He's going to knock it out the park. But it was a good match for the audience. His audience is that. And so what did I send? Because I knew Rashawn, I can text him and say, hey, here's Dexter's one sheet. He has a new book coming out. It's talking about the real estate wealth creation blueprint. He talks about how to possess the land. Rashawn is Christian. Obviously, Dexter, he's a pastor as well. He talks about money in the biblical sense, about possessing the land and real estate. So it was great. Dexter had questions on his one sheet. He had about 6 questions that Rashawn doesn't even have to read the book yet. He can just ask the questions. He had the bio there. He had some other links and things like that. So the more you give them to work with, the better that interview is going to be. So, Rashawn has interviewed the likes of Kirk Franklin to Megan Good to celebrities, Tyler Perry. But now he's interviewing Dexter because his outlet talks about money and Dexter talks about wealth building. So we crafted a story that really talked about that, that was newsworthy for that outlet. What is a unique angle for that? The unique angle for Dexter, for Rashawn, was he was talking about real estate and really real estate possessing the land, how that is the best way right now to build wealth, longevity wealth. Not talk about Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there are other ways to build wealth. I mean, I guess you could buy a lottery ticket and that could be a strategy as well, but he's talking about really biblical ways about possessing the land. So don't just ever pitch just a book. Don't just pitch a product. Pitch the impact that you're going to have on their audience. And remember, it's not about you, it's about your story, what it is, your why. And then Dexter, because he was 20 years in the financial services industry, we bring that to the forefront. He's not just someone out here just buying houses and flipping them. He had been in the financial services industry, and he can give a little bit of backstory about that. So I always talk about that. So the key part of really, and I just said I knew Rashawn, but how did I get to know Rashawn? How do I get to know these media people that I know? Genuine connections, going where the journalists go, following where they are, connecting with them on LinkedIn. Facebook, not so much. They kind of, they don't really like Facebook. Twitter, yes, they like Twitter because it's short and brief. But journalists need to be your new BFFs. I mean, but you don't have to bother them at 3 in the morning. It's like, hey, can you cover this story? But see how much you, just like with any relationship, how much you can support them, how much you can bring them value. If you see that they write on a particular subject, give them other subject matter experts besides you that might be in their area as much as you can. If you want to, and I always say this is what I tell everyone, make a list of the 10 media outlets you want to be on and study those 10. When I say study, watch them, tape them, look at how they ask questions, look at all the people they've had on, look at how maybe you compare to them and how you're different from their guests that they've had. Look at what they tweet, look at what they respond to. I mean, become a student of each of those 10 outlets and the reporter who's covering it, or finding out who is their producer, or finding out who is their editor. But more than likely, the person who is doing the story, they have to do a good job. So they're going to be promoting the fact that they have social media. The person that is out of Atlanta, I really like her a lot. Um, Tanae Howard. She's out of Atlanta and she does a really good job on the air, and she does a good job. I've met her and she does a good job uh, on social media. So whenever she does, I'm not in Atlanta, but and I may have some Atlanta clients and things like that, that only when it's appropriate will I pitch. So I'll never burn bridges with media and just pitching them junk, right? That's a good way to get blocked. So whenever I see her doing something good, I give her a thumbs up on social media. I tell her, okay, I'll send her an email or a text. It's like with anything, media relations is about building relationships, and it's slow. It's not, don't you hate it when people only call you when they want something? They kind of feel that way too. So at least put a like on their page. At least say, hey, that a girl when they win an award or Emmy and things like that. As much as you can, offer some kind of support, some kind of uh, some kind of value, and let them know that you see them as a person, not as a person that is only going to do something for them. That's key. That's basic networking protocol 101. If you want to know a little bit more about how to network or how to approach media, I do recommend a book. Terry Williams wrote a book called The Personal Touch. That's in Amazon. That's years ago. But then there's another one called Make It Rain by Ariva Martin. That's relatively new. And Ariva, CNN analyst and things like that, but she really did study the media. She's a journalist. I mean, she's a lawyer by trade, but she studied journalists. She studied who she wanted to talk to and what they liked and what kind of things. And it it became her second job. Okay. So you can do that, or you can hire a publicist that already knows that. So, either you have time or you have money. Either you spend the time or you spend the money. That's what I say about PR. So when you do have media coverage, I want to make sure that I'm good on time here. You want to maximize it. That's one of the things. You want to maximize it. You want to repurpose the content. You want to keep the momentum going. For each piece that you have, you can repurpose it in different ways and be creative with it. I did a podcast on my podcast called 50 Ways to Repurpose Your Content. You can go to Get Out There, Get Known, and see that particular podcast called 50 Ways um, to Repurpose Your Content. So, final thoughts. I'd see I'm right at time here. Media coverage isn't just like a feather in your cap, it's the entire cap. Okay, you wear it proudly and it'll open doors for you. You can see as seen on ABC, Fox, NBC, whatever, Wall Street Journal, and even if it's a publication people haven't heard of, they know it's been vetted by a journalist. You can say, hey, I've been seen in uh it doesn't always have to be Newsweek. There's this one particular person that I want to get to know. He's with the Carolina Panorama. This is in Columbia, but he's a publisher of that. It's a black guy. Now, I circled this so that you all can see that this is how I get media content. This is a trade publication that I get. It's called Editor and Publisher. But they always talk about people in the news, journalists. This particular lady, black lady here, she's executive editor of Newsweek. I sent her a thank you note. Not a thank you note, but a congratulations note. But also send thank you notes. That's another thing for media relations. When you do get coverage, send a thank you note. If you can, mail one, but at the very least, please send an email. That matters so much, to say thank you so much and then share the story. But this particular guy, the reason why I circle that, he's the first black president of the association, the South Carolina Publishers Association. And their association, he's got 2 terms, has been around, I think they said almost 100 years. So it's the first black one. So I'm going to definitely send him a congratulatory note. Building relationships is really like the thing that you want to do at the very beginning. So, call to action is encourage. Media relations is not just one stop, one and done. You're always looking at it. Spend at least 15 minutes on LinkedIn, or maybe something like editorandpublisher.com or Muck Rack, looking for different journalists. I'll just say LinkedIn. That would probably be easier, and Twitter. Looking for different journalists on your top 10 list and really study them. Don't just rely solely on social media and solely on ads in order to get seen. But remember, in the quest for success, media coverage is your Excalibur. So you got to go out there and slay some dragons. Okay. That's all I really have to say, because it is one of the things that will really make you stand out above the fray. Whether you're on the cover of a speaker's magazine or you are on stage at the press club with Speak Sell Shine, the thing that I really love to do is to find out what your superpower is and then help promote, amplify, and market that. That's the Pam way. Promote, amplify, and market your story, your brand, the essence of you. Dr. Letitia Nicole, I thank you so much for having me today, speaking life. And I just want you all to know, go to PamPerryPR.com, download your free gifts, and I will talk with you later. God bless. Thank you.